Well, hello there. Welcome to Women Around a Table Eating Food. We're Nick and Jen, therapist and writer, partners in crime, and lifelong best friends. Around here, WTF means what the food. And it's our excuse to go deep, get real, and share the kind of messy conversations that usually stay between us and a plate of something delicious. So sit back, grab a bite, and join our conversation. Okay. All right, girl, I'm going to start us off.
All right.
Okay, so today on WTF, we are thrilled because we're welcoming Dani Beinstein, who is a psychological astrologer and one of the most grounded, soulful interpreters of how astrology and our inner world can cohabitate. Dani studied the humanities at NYU and then spent years in media before shifting into what became her life's calling, helping people understand themselves through the intersecting lenses of psychology, spirituality, and astrology. With a master's in spiritual psychology and extensive training in consciousness and healing, she blends clarity, intuition, and insight in a way that makes the deeper layers of life feel not only accessible, but profoundly human. Her work focuses on guiding people through transitions, emotional patterning, identity shifts, and the universal process of becoming more fully themselves. She's known for distilling complex astrological cycles into something meaningful and usable, something that helps people understand their story with compassion instead of judgment. And today, she's joining us for a conversation that so many women in midlife will exhale into. We'll talk about the energetic and astrological landscape of midlife, the soul-stretching experience of the Chiron Return, and how we can use this as a tool for self-understanding and reinvention. And of course, since it's women around a table eating food, we'll want to know what food currently delights her, because all important conversations definitely involve some food, whether that's to eat or for thought. So we'd like to welcome Dani to the table.
I mean, that intro, that's
Nick,
that's
that
hard
was
to live
great.
up to. That's really hard to live up to.
Well, and I'm not even the
here's
writer
beauty.
of the three of us, all right?
Yeah, but
Y'all
that's
are
actually
the writers.
and it's you. You don't need to live up to anything because it was all constructed based on you and your you-ness. So welcome
That's
you.
very humbling. I'm so glad to be here.
Thank
And
you.
I love food. Not shy about loving food.
Okay.
So I'm excited about that too.
Well, you are in the right place for good food too.
I
Nashville,
know.
like,
It really is. Just the Southeast in general, but yeah, Nashville is a booming food town.
Yeah.
But that's like when I travel, that's pretty much the most important thing other than landscape now. Used to be architecture, and now I'm like, I want to see the flora and the fauna.
Yeah.
And eat.
And you want to eat anything you want to eat while you look at it. Was it a hard transition for you food-wise when you moved there? Because notably, just like the US is so rich with food traditions, all the different places that we go to, there's a lot of food history there. And how'd your belly do when you moved there? How did your palate adjust?
That's such an interesting question. No one's ever asked me that. Part of the reason that we stayed, we drove here, we got a rental, like a very short-term rental, just to feel it out. And part of the reason we stayed was like the food scene is so robust. I feel like, and also what was really important to me was to, after being in LA for 15 years, live in a really fertile place with a lot of regenerative farms, and we are surrounded by regenerative farms. So I feel like actually climate-wise, which then obviously affects the food source, I have felt much ironically healthier here than in LA. Where people think of Southern California, think of all this, whatever, kale juice. But I actually feel deeply nourished here.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, like everything from the soil, we're out in the woods, to the food source. And people think, oh, only Southern California or California has really incredible farmers markets. But I've been really blown away we get our food directly from the farms, not even farmers markets. Danielle, my partner, goes to the actual farm. We picked up a Christmas tree from the farm that we get most of, and we showed up, and everyone who worked there knew him. He knew all of their personal stories. So, heirloom everything.
Oh, I love
and really eating with the seasons, living with the seasons has been really nourishing. And then, we're not big drinkers, but the tea scene, like when people come to my land who are very knowledgeable, they'll say, oh my God, it's so medicinal. Your land is so medicinal. Most of our acreage is wooded. And if we, walk through the forest, there's just all kinds of medicine that's right on our land. So that's been wonderful. And then, the culinary history of Appalachia is really fascinating. And I feel like I've been more and more interested in that. I have always been fascinated with the South. Like when I was a little girl, I've always been a huge reader. And when I was a little girl, my mom would take me to the bookstore. There was this bookstore called Eeyores on the Upper East Side of Manhattan.
Oh, I love that name.
Yeah, on Madison. And my mom used to take me, and I only wanted to read about the South, the antebellum South, the civil rights South. I have no historical lineage. None of my family, I'm Eastern European, but I have just always been, and felt connected. And then my sister and I came in 2017. We went to Charleston, and I was like, I've been here before. I've lived here before. It was my first time there. I don't know. I've always felt deeply connected to the South. So who knows? But I landed here at 40.
Yeah.
41, just literally the week of my 41st birthday. So speaking of middle age,
Yeah.
It's been here. I don't know if that answered your question or that was way too circuitous, but
No, I love that. I was actually in part too. I was wondering, like sometimes when we move to an area where the food is richer, or let's say like cream sauces or ingredients and whatnot, sometimes there can be a hard adjustment. But even if that could have been a possibility for you, it doesn't sound like that would have even happened because you were already so nourished. It's almost like, you could digest anything because you were clearly in the place where you were supposed to be, which it's amazing.
Yeah. And literally we drink raw milk, and I get it from a woman that I work out with who has a cow. She literally brings it to my workout class. Like it's that nourished. And when I was in college, when I was at NYU, I had the privilege of meeting this woman, Nina Plank, who was really at the forefront of the genuine Whole Foods movement. She had run the New York City farmers markets for a while, and she grew up on a farm, and she taught me, this was back in 2000, she taught me that you really like butter and whole milk and eating grass-fed meat. So she was way, way, way ahead of the curve in that line of thinking, that animal fats are really necessary. And so that had influenced me. I was a vegetarian from 11 to 21 when I met her. And then I studied abroad in Italy. And in Florence, they're known for their like prosciutto and all of that, but they are really known for bistecca alla fiorentina, like their steak. And I started eating meat again there, and I felt an immediate difference. So I actually do better in a way with smaller amounts of richer foods than larger quantities of lighter foods.
Sure.
That makes so much sense, though, when we think about, you hear people talk about eating in Italy, eating in France, eating in different places, who are gluten sensitive here, but they go over there and they can eat the pasta, and it just is, they feel wonderful. They feel alive because their food sources are not toxic.
Yeah. So there's all of that. And then so much of this land is actually undeveloped because the Southeast was, not industrialized in the way that the Rust Belt was or the Northeast was. There are huge swaths of land that haven't been touched. which Daniel and I that's always our biggest concern, that people are just going to come and log all of it. But there is something about that, right? That the nature of that. And then I had a near-death experience in 2016, and my whole body went out of whack, and I ballooned, my weight ballooned, which was a nervous system response, but I didn't realize that. And it took me years and years, and I had horrific acid reflux.
Oh my goodness.
And I refused to take PPI. So I finally figured out after years that it was a structural issue related to my accident. And, everything was out of whack. And then I started, really inspired by Nicole, started working out, strength training. And I've been doing that for over a year. And I feel the healthiest and the strongest I've ever felt. And I think that the way that I eat, which is not to get thin, but to feel nourished and strong, I realize that a lot of people in middle age complain about loss of energy. I do not have loss of energy. That is not showing up. And I think it's because how nutrient dense and rich the local environs are. For me, who knows?
Yeah.
But
no, I think it's that combination too, Dani, right?
Yeah.
Like it's the nourishment, it's the quality of the soil down there, it is how you move your body.
Yeah.
It's all of that. And that makes such a massive difference in midlife.
Yes. And also, I think the biggest thing for me, having been raised in New York City and then living in LA for 15 years, is that, and I lived briefly in DC and briefly in Florence, Italy, like I said, and then briefly in New Zealand between Los Angeles and Tennessee, is the people, the values of the people, just in daily interaction. I used to joke that I had PTSD coming from LA, which is like, who do you know? Am I supposed to know you? Are you going to help, are you going to help advance my rise to stardom? And it's just, people here are just warm and care about you as a person.
Yeah.
And the interactions are, every time people come and visit me, they say, everyone is so warm, not just like nice, but warm, Yeah.
Because there's a difference between those two compliments.
Yes. And like, the kind of storied Southern waitress that's like, oh, bless your heart,
Sure.
But that's all very true. The Southern hospitality thing is really true. So I also think that contributes. I don't have my defenses up, which is also probably middle age in a different way, in the way that I did in LA. New York, I was so, I grew up there, but I was so young when I left. I was 25, that'll always be in me, way more than Los Angeles. Like, I feel like I left Los Angeles and I left Los Angeles, the Los Angeles within me too, but the New Yorker will always be strong within me. But I think that contributes too. And
Nick and I.
Yeah.
No, please go ahead.
And just the focus on, like even in this class that I do, so there's women that I work out with, they range from 20s to 60s. 3 of the women in our class are expecting babies. And then there's women who've raised babies and are now in retirement. And the way we all show up, and the focus is solely on strength and community, not what do you look like? It's not the optics, and it's not competitive. It's really something. And that could just be this little section, but the vibe, the overall feel of Middle Tennessee is one of really heart-centeredness, which I just feel like how could that not have an impact on my health?
Oh, 100%.
Sure.
And that's one of the things. Heather and I were out to dinner last night with my sister-in-law, and we were talking about Nashville because we're talking about places where we want to go visit again. And Heather used those exact words around, there is a warmth to the people there that is unparalleled, that we haven't experienced anywhere else, that people were so just genuine from the soul.
Yeah, I haven't either. And that's why, that's basically why we stayed and live here.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question.
Oh no, it's all beautiful. It's all beautiful. We know we want to be cognizant of time. I would love to. I want to see if I can work two questions into one and be real sneaky like a journalist like that. But I want to set you up for introducing yourself to folks who may be newer to you and the work that you
Yeah.
do. I would love for you to talk a little bit about, what pulled you into astrology, not as something that was fun or as a hobby, but the lens that you kind of see life through. And also where you've talked about, when you do your work with people in transitions and working with women in transitions, along the lines of the work that you've done, what are blind spots that you feel that your work with astrology helps women to kind of illuminate that maybe some traditional therapies and coaching systems might not necessarily illuminate?
Yeah.
So you can tell us how you found it and then how you think it's special and how does it shine a light on things, especially for women of a certain age or anyone of a certain age. How is it different? How do you think it's different?
I would say those questions are very much related because what drew me to, so I started studying astrology on my own at 19. But what led me to do what I do, it was not, I wish I could say I decided I want to do what I do and I forged a path. Unfortunately, I'm not wired that way. And it was more the invitation kept coming. I'd gotten this master's in spiritual psychology. The intent was not necessarily to do therapeutic work. It was really for my own evolution. And I actually thought I was going to move more into the tech sector.
Really?
Right? Yeah. Well, I've been working in ed tech through it, like educational technology, looking at different ways to weave technology. My background had been in kind of media, but looking back, I think that's so funny because it's like I'm becoming more of a Luddite in a way. So like that I would have done that kind of work. But it kind of happened upon me. In both cases, both finding astrology and doing what I do. And the reason that it stuck is that factor that you mentioned. It weaves something whole together cosmic into the therapeutic process that moves therapy away from the idea of a more diagnostic process. The idea behind spiritual psychology, which I don't buy hook, line, and sinker. I'm not a full joiner of anything, okay. In that way. But the root of it, which is that we are whole. We are whole. And it's the idea of inviting us back into our wholeness. The thing, instead of like, here is a diagnostic issue, here where we are broken, which can be, in a way, the lens of a more traditional model. You come in, you have a problem, let's fix it.
Sure.
Right? So the cosmic lens is like, we are souls having a human experience. And the more that we tune into that. Now, the thing about astrology is that your birth chart is fixed. It's not changeable. If you have Venus in Pisces, you have Venus in Pisces. You can't, right? But there is a transcendent quality to it, but there's also limitation. And I think that over the past decade or so, a lot of the pop psychology, a lot of the language on social media is really moving towards this idealized existence, idealized life, that if you hit middle age and that hasn't transpired, can be a real drop. It can be a real, there can be real grief with that because a lot of people entering into middle age now, so I'm 45, right? But so I'm an exennial. right on the cusp, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was born in 80. So I think people think millennials start at 81, right? So I'm X, and I have two older sisters who are 7 and 10 years older who are firmly Gen X. So I feel more connected to that generation. But especially later millennials who were raised with this idea of you can have whatever you want. You can have whatever you want. That's not true for all people.
Yeah.
That's just not true, right? Yeah. I'd love to be 5'8". It ain't happening, right? Like there are just things that are not. And so there's a certain level specific, it's a different kind of midlife grief that I'm seeing now than I think in previous generations, because it has this added component of, you used to turn on the TV and see an idealized life, but you turn on social media and everybody is advertising their life in a certain way. And
the best parts of it, right?
Exactly.
You could also turn a TV show on that showed a shit show of a life or a family or a situation. And now where we get to curate whatever we see all day long, if we choose to only see the bright and shiny things all day long, we're going to be like crows only seeing the bright and shiny things all day long. And that can just be so deteriorating.
And really soul robbing. It's not real, right? It's not like I saw this beautiful film last night. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but it's a Norwegian film. And he had directed The Worst Person in the World. And this is called Sentimental Value. And
I want to see that.
Oh, it's incredible. And
I didn't see Worst Person in the World.
You must see it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, yeah, this is what art is. Mm-hmm. Like I love schlock, but like this is art. This is really grappling with some real subjects and not in a shiny, performative way. But how do we really navigate these things that are our lineage, that are our ancestry, that are handed down to us? What is our role in that lineage? The things that we can't escape. Speaking of Chiron, this is actually a really good transition into Chiron. I don't know if I fully answered your question, but
it was perfect. You just go, girl. You just go.
So Chiron is called kind of the wounded healer. That's the trope around it. We have our Chiron return between the ages of 49 and 51. So there's a series of midlife transits.
Is that everybody? Could I just interrupt
everybody?
You?
That's
anybody on the planet, age specific.
So there are a series of age specific universal life transits. There are 3 major ones. The first Saturn return happens around 29 years old, 28 and a half, when we are ushered into adulthood. Right. And we really begin to take responsibility for our journey as, individuated humans. Right. Especially in the Western, I'm talking about Western astrology, Western world, Western, belief system. The second one is the Uranus opposition, which actually lines up within the same time frame, roughly, of the Saturn opposition. But the Uranus opposition, Uranus takes 84 years to run the zodiac. So, we're roughly around 14 years after the Saturn return. And it's like, what have I been doing? The kind of cultural thing is the midlife crisis, right? Mm-hmm. The red Ferrari, that we saw in the 80s or whatever. But it's, it's what have I been doing with my life? What have I not gotten to? There's a stirring. Uranus is about change and sometimes rebellion, but a kind of liberation and breaking out. So that happens between 42 and 44. Again, a kind of similar time of the Saturn opposition, when Saturn is now opposing Saturn. And there is this kind of, what have I been working towards? Has it come to fruition? And what am I doing? I'm actually at the final stage. There are often 3 passes. So as of January 13th, I will have my exact Saturn opposition. It has not been a joyride. And then the final universal one is the Chiron return, which if we think of, even if one isn't a mother, if we think of maiden, mother, crone, that passage of womanhood, it's really the very beginning of kind of the idea of moving into wisdom. And Chiron, so Saturn deals with the structure of our lives. It deals with limitations. It deals with delays. It deals with hardship. By the time we reach middle age, we have experienced Saturn in a myriad of ways, right? We know that life is peaks and valleys. We know that we come up against ourselves. We come up against, certain structures or limitations. And then it's all part of life. Chiron was discovered in 1977. It is not a planet per se, but it really evokes the wounds we come here with. If you believe in past lives, some might say you come from a past life with this wound. It predates a kind of conscious experience of what happened to us, right? It's kind of like we come with this wound. And we come with the ability to heal. Now, Liz Green, who's the mother of psychological astrology and sort of who I've looked to, she writes a lot about how there's a kind of superficial interpretation of Chiron. We have a wound, our karma is our dharma, we turn that wound into our offering into the world. That's how a lot of astrologers talk about it. I've talked about it that way. But if we really look deeper, what Chiron is a reckoning between our animal self, because Chiron is half centaur, and our human self. And in a way, it has to do with mortality. And there are some things that don't get cleaned up in a lifetime, that aren't easily tied up with a bow.
Is that true?
We lose our mother when we're young. We never had a mother. That's just like one of a myriad of examples, right? We grow up in poverty, and even if we, amass great wealth, that wound is still that. There's a myriad of ways that we carry wounding within us. And there's a kind of Neptune moved into Pisces. Neptune takes 164 years roughly to ground the zodiac. In 2012, Neptune moved into Pisces, which it rules. And since then, which is really the advent, really of the algorithm of social media and this idealized life being played out, there's this been idea that you can just transcend it all. We know that's not entirely true. You're going to carry wounds. How you hold those wounds and how you work with them is a lot of what the Chiron return is. We all have them to various degrees. And also how we metabolize this life, right? And that much of it is not going to make sense. Why do horrible things happen to wonderful people? Why do seemingly great things happen to really shitty people? And then everything in between. Right? So, hopefully by midlife, there's been a degree of maturation. We also have this obsession with youth that we're chasing. And a lot of women entering midlife are not trying to get strong to maintain longevity or wellness for as long, but chasing the opposite direction, chasing youth, right? That's a denial, in a way, of the rite of passage of time. So Chiron is really here to usher us into true kind of wisdom. Whether we take it or not is really up to us. Erik Erikson's age stages says that the generative years are 40 to 65. So it's prior to that. It's prior to the wisdom years, but it is a kind of entry point. We're thick in the generative years and making sense of this thing called life. And, to kind of circle back to your previous question, your Chiron is one of those things that drew me to astrology. Right? The idea, just like Saturn, what are sorry about that. Henry, don't do that. Don't do that.
Makes me so happy to see that somebody else's dog wants to absolutely dig to China on a pillow or on the couch.
Yeah.
That's his MO.
Yeah.
And he always does it sometime through a client or sometime.
Of
So
course.
that metabolic process around our particular journey, our highs and lows, our losses, our gains, all of that is very Chiron. Now, the other thing that Liz Green talks about is that the sun and Chiron are related, because the sun is our life force. It's our ego. It's our will to live, right? Chiron is our wound. So how do they interplay with each other? How does like our life force come up against, where we feel ultimately the most vulnerable or wounded? Mm. And how do they interplay? But I think that it's a really important thing. And, the nature of my work is that it deepens as I age.
Yeah.
It deepens as I grow. So I started doing this full time over a decade ago when I was 33. I'm 45. I've experienced a lot of life in 12 years, right? So my relationship to the work changes because I grow. I have now gone through every single outer planet transit that has shaken me to the core in my particular journey. So that impacts and that adds layers, right? It's one thing and I do this without projection onto what it's going to look like, but the more you live, the more wisdom you have to share. So
and knowing that, Dani, like knowing just that those major transits are happening, did that enable you to use the energy differently if you didn't know? Like, so for some, you know what I mean? Like,
yes,
so the way that I see, like the way for me, what's been so helpful with astrology is seeing what the energetic blueprint of that time is.
yes,
And seeing, okay, where can I lean into this piece of it? Where can I shift that piece of it?
yes.
Okay.
100%. But also, it's not a get out of jail free card. I still
Right.
have to experience it and I still have to metabolize it in my own life. And, one of the things that my master's was so intent on, and probably the best learning I got, was neutral observation, how to not bring myself into the interpretation. And the only time I do that is if I say, can I share something that might be of value to you of my own experience? But it's going to show up differently for different people based on all the astrological signatures, right? But there's something it just adds that extra layer of the human condition or human experience that continues to deepen over time.
So if our listeners are tuning in and they are starting to, let's say they're 50 and they go back and start thinking about some situations or some feelings that maybe were starting to come up when they were 49.
Yeah.
And they're hearing you say, okay, 49 to 51. Oh my gosh, I've got some time that I'm going to have to still kind of get through this. Or, oh, I'm so in it. What kinds of things can you share? Is there anything that you can share? Is there some sweet, gentle advice that you can give to folks who maybe have an aha moment of that this thing that they're going through now actually has a name?
Well, it can also be layered with other transits happening. It's the thing about astrology is that it's never just a singular thing, but recognizing that can say, oh, how, this is where I think faith is really important. And I'm not talking about faith that everything is going to turn out exactly how you want, but that there is a deeper reason. And I think my gentle kind of guidance would be to say, take inventory, take personal inventory. Don't be afraid to look inward, right? It's like the unexamined life is not worth living, right? The famous saying. Really, it's an invitation to explore oneself and where one feels wounded and where one has I guess my thing, again, without looking at the specifics of an individual's chart, is like, what have I been trying to overcompensate for, and why?
Mm.
You know, like,
Yeah.
So good.
where have I felt this vulnerability, and why am I so afraid of it? Because I think sometimes we think we're going to be engulfed by it. It's like some people don't want to open up the door to grief because they think, oh, it'll never end.
Mm-hmm.
But there is something in that, right? There is something, it reminds me of that a Mary Oliver poem. Someone gave me a box of darkness. Took me a while to know that it too was a gift, right? Something like that,
Yeah.
right? There is the these darker moments that we have. You know, it's funny, I'll have a client and they'll say like, I had such a bad weekend, I had a dark night of the soul. And I'm like, that's not a dark night of the soul. No disrespect, but a dark night of the soul, you're talking about months of profound inner turmoil, looking and examining what one is doing on this earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the other thing about astrology, is people tend to, you know, like a planet will ingress or whatever, like a Pluto on November 19th of last year moved into Aquarius. It'll be there till 2044. And people are like, I'm feeling it. And it's like, maybe, but like probably those with a tight orb are feeling it. And also it's not an overnight thing. Takes 248 years to grow in the zodiac. This is a long, but this is the, you know, the shadow effect of Google and social media. Oh, I can just Google it. It's like, it's happening right now. And it's like, no, these things take time to unspool. They take space. And I think that's another gift of middle age. We can have the, oh, time is running out, or we can have, look at all these years I've lived, look at the peaks and valleys. When I hit a roadblock, I've already experienced getting to some other side of it, right? We have our own life for reference, our own experiential knowledge, and there's a lot to work with. So for those who are, you know, in their early 50s, it's like, bravo, you're here. That's a gift. That's a gift in and of itself. We don't talk about that enough, that aging is a privilege. And, you know, how can you use your own life experience to propel you forward? I think that's a big part of it. It's like, we're always looking outside. And I think the older we get, the more we can draw from our own well and resources.
Yeah.
So some of the
feel that. I totally feel that. And Jen and I had a discussion, oh gosh, probably a month or so ago, just about how we've evolved in our profession and things like that. And particularly as a therapist, it's felt like I have come more home to myself. And as I've come home to myself, can be a mirror for others, you know, other women to come home to themselves. And it's also like the filter comes off. Sometimes, you know, like I have to keep the filter on, but the filter comes
Shrinking.
off.
Do you watch Shrinking?
Yes. Yes.
right?
What a
Yeah.
great freaking show. Can't wait for it to come back.
Exactly.
But we kind of have that. There's this, like you said, the privilege in aging of also just like being ourselves and more wholeheartedly ourselves. And so, yeah, I really resonate with what you were just saying.
Yeah. And I think I think we don't have enough of those voices. I mean, I would say, like, you know, so many people look to pop culture. I would say like Kate Winslet is like a rare bird.
Oh.
I know, she's the best.
Oh.
Or like a Carrie Russell, where they really like just are willing to like speak truth to what their experience is, as opposed to, you know, putting out some idealized version. I do think women, you know, they always say like men age like fine wine. I do think women really ripen with age.
Amen to that. Yes.
And really, there's a whole other kind of beauty.
Truly. You know, when you were talking about just the different transits, how they show up differently for different people based on kind of the whole astrological picture, it made me think a little bit about how I would imagine, based on where Chiron is in your chart, it's going to have a different signature.
Yes. So Chiron is in Aries currently, and it will move into Taurus beginning June 19th, and it'll backtrack. And then September 18th of 2026, I think it really, yeah, it'll 2027, it'll stay in Taurus.
And so that has to, I would imagine. So if somebody has Chiron in Cancer in their eighth house,
Yes, it's going to show up differently.
it's going to show up very differently.
Yes. So currently it's in Aries, and, a lot about Aries is there can be impulsiveness with Aries, right? Aries is related to the self, but also there can be a wounding there. So there can be it's almost like the opposite, right? So that people can move more to Libra naturally and put themselves last. So Chiron and Aries, there can be wounding around the theme of Aries, which is willing to take a risk, willing to go out on one's own, willing to forge a new path, to be a pioneer, to, leap and the net will appear, to just lead, to put stuff, to be more assertive. These can be places of wounding.
So for example, if Chiron is in Aries, and in your birth chart, Chiron is in Cancer in the eighth house, for instance. What is that like?
I don't put emphasis on Chiron to Chiron transits.
Okay, got it.
In that way.
Yeah.
I just, because it's more of like a lifelong personal journey. I would say maybe more like if the nodes hit,
okay,
or Saturn. But I don't put a whole lot of emphasis on transits to Chiron.
Got it. That makes sense.
In the same way that I would a transit to certainly a personal planet or an outer planet is specific. But I think it's more about recognizing like what's in the collective. So there's like the collective narrative, right? And then recognizing like our own long form journey around it.
That makes total sense. Because I would imagine, again, like you said before, and even with other little things happening in people's charts, the texture is going to be different.
Exactly. But there's something, yes, and it's important to recognize, and then any kind of aspects it may be making in the chart.
I think all of this brings up a beautiful opportunity to say that for folks who are listening, for whom all of this is super duper new and they don't understand it, or they're really interested in it and they want to learn more, that the best way to do that is to follow you, listen to you, read what you read. I mean, I'm not saying this on purpose to blow sunshine up your ass, but the idea is that astrology is so deep, so vast, that we can't possibly know how to go at it unless we are guided by somebody whom we trust, who has a framework that maybe that we believe in. Like you listening to you talk, you remind me so much of Heather, Nick's wife, in that she has designed her education. She's designed the things that she learns about and the things that she wants to be more learned about, to bolster the services that she can provide as the person that she is, and for her clients and whatnot. And so there's so much richness to you and your background. You pull from all of these different thought places to try to create a practice and a career that really, like you said in the beginning, serves the whole person. And so if someone hears this and thinks, "Oh my gosh, like my last 2 years have been a shit show. How am I gonna fix it?" They can maybe find some solace in that if they work with somebody like you, that maybe they can look at their own chart. They can kind of maybe find some whys or find a path.
And,
I mean, do you feel like that's a good, for someone who's feeling like they're at their wit's end, is this Is this a nice place? Not nice. Is this a warm,
I mean, that's why
gentle?
I do what I do,
Yeah.
right? It's like to give some context and understanding and to help people through really more difficult moments. I rarely get people who just want to come to me for a blanket, tell me about my chart. Because
Yeah.
that's not
I would
really,
imagine. Yeah.
I can
You're
do
so
that.
much deeper than that.
But that's not what I'm about. And it's also why I have such a precarious relationship to Instagram, because everything is so nuanced
Yeah.
and nothing can be reduced to a singular formula. And how one person feels and experiences a transit is going to be very different to another. It's like, the nature of my work is so personalized.
Sure.
It's
Yeah.
it's a therapeutic relationship,
Yes,
really, you know?
exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
And, I've just never dipped over into like the influencer where it's just not me.
It's not what your soul's
No,
curriculum is.
no, no, no. But
So
the richness
knowing,
of working with people one-on-one is what fuels me.
Yeah,
It's where I find the most meaning.
totally. Jen, you were going to
for
ask something?
well, I'm thinking that for people who are listening to you, Dani, and who are feeling drawn to you and drawn to your intellect and drawn to your spiritual purview and just all the layers that you are, and if they're starting to feel a little bit cracked open or connected to you or curious or a little bit more frazzled, like what do you say to those people who hear something in you that they can connect with? And do you have uh, just what would you say to them?
Well, I mean, if they want, they can work with me. They can book
Mm,
in with a session if they feel called to have this perspective. But I think, it's whenever I think someone feels connected, it's because they see pieces of themselves on some level, right? So I think my nature in my work is going to appeal to more thoughtful, contemplative individuals. Even if they don't front that, that's at the core,
sure.
you know? And Nick, I'm sure, do you feel this too? Like that there is a symbiotic relationship with clients, like people are drawn to people for a certain reason,
Oh, of course,
right?
absolutely. And a lot of times, over the years, what I've noticed is there's an archetype that comes at different phases of my own life. So now
Yes.
I'm going to be 50 next year, and I have women coming, right? Women starting to reach
Yeah.
out who are in that phase of life. When I hit 40, and you described that Uranus scenario, all of the women who were coming to me were asking the questions, who am I? Who do I want to be? Who have
Yeah.
I been? And
Mm.
so there is this kind of symbiotic relationship that occurs.
I find that to be really true. So it's like, I just trust that process.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a I'm going to move us in a slightly different direction because this is a very important question. You all laugh because you know it's not.
All your questions are important, love. All
Um,
of them are.
if there so this is a question we ask most people who come on the podcast. If you could eat one thing every single day and never ever get tired of it, what would it be?
I mean, my first thought is pasta,
Mm,
The
but like,
first idea is usually the right one,
like
FYI.
real,
homemade.
like well done al dente
Yeah.
pasta. That's my first thought.
Mm.
Because right? You can have a lot of different things with pasta.
Sure you
But the
can.
pasta as the consecutive ingredient or consistent ingredient seems
Is
important.
there a food that you would say over your years of life that you've eaten the most of?
bread.
You're like, also pasta. Yeah.
I love
I
it.
do come from Eastern European, Jewish stock. I feel like bread is a big part of that, like
You
bagels.
you you were probably born with like mother sourdough like starter in your blood. That's
Exactly.
that's why you're
I
so bloody healthy.
I would say, yeah, I feel, although I don't know, in my LA years, I didn't, you can't have bread and live in LA. They don't allow it.
You can't eat it. You can't eat it in public. You can eat it, but you have to eat it in your
Yes,
bathtub.
in secret. It's
Yeah, in the
contraband.
bathroom.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I also, I love my morning. So basically, since Italy, so over 24 years ago, I have an espresso every morning.
I
Like an
love that.
espresso with like, a cappuccino or whatever, but one shot. But I'm not a coffee all day person.
Yeah.
But I've
Yeah.
gone through periods where I just don't have coffee. So yeah, I don't know because my 15 years in LA, definitely there was a lot of kale and
That's
Yeah.
a
less
I
lot
bread.
of
bet.
kale.
And I'm not saying that I wanted that. That was not great for me.
That was your code. That was your code word for bread, though. I mean,
Yes.
let's be real. You're among friends. Kale, also bread.
I'm going to have
100%.
kale.
I'm gonna go have
100%.
some kale, honey. So I have a question. If your Chiron return had a flavor,
Ah,
what would it be?
that's a
Or what do you
great
think?
question.
What do you think? And like you're such a culinarian.
Well,
What's
I
the
don't
flavor?
actually cook well. I do bake. Daniel is really the more talented chef. But then sometimes I'll like pull out these dishes and I'm quite proud of them. But I'm not the way. He's like a scientist in the way that he
Mm.
approaches cooking, you
That's so
know? Nick spent time with us.
yeah. It was
It's
so
definitely an
I'm
great.
opposites
Around a
envious.
attract.
meal too. Like we got to share a meal together and it
It's a
was so
real opposites attract situation.
I love it.
So my Chiron is in Taurus. So if it had a flavor, I would feel like it would have to be, that is, I
Go on.
want to say like a root vegetable, like a
Earthy.
sweet potato. So the
earthy.
joke is like before I met Daniel, and this is not really a joke. I would have roasted sweet potato
All the
every
time.
night. Like that's like what I ate for dinner is roasted sweet potato. Also probably why I was quite thin.
Because
Just like,
that's all you
that's it.
eat.
I would just like eat roasted sweet potato. I love I can't eat enough sweet potato.
Yeah. That has to go next to pasta then as your like what you could eat every day.
Yeah,
Oh,
like
so
I
I want
definitely
to
like
send
carby
you.
things.
Yeah.
So I want to then send you, and I totally will. At Thanksgiving, I made for the first time these golden sweet potato
Yeah.
dinner rolls that were pillowy and kind of like a Parker House roll, but
Oh
so
my
much
God.
lighter. And the base was roasted sweet potato. You would die for these.
In
And
your
if you're a
face.
baker, also, I'm telling you, and I
I'm
love
not
to
like a
bake.
bread baker, which is different than like
Oh, but you
a,
can be. I feel
okay.
it. You will be. You will be. I can send you. It was the most satisfying thing I have baked in a very long time.
Oh my,
Your
that sounds
your heart will
amazing.
love it.
Yeah,
Your
but I
heart will
feel
love
like
it.
that like is something sweet potatoy.
Hmm.
Yeah, maybe your rolls are
Oh,
what my Chiron return would be.
I love that so
okay.
much.
I love it. I love that. I love that for us, for all
But
of
Yeah.
like
us.
I've always loved like I don't love carrots. I do. The weirdest thing is I like carrot juice, but I don't like carrots any other way.
Mm.
But in summer I like a carrot juice. But I love like roasted squash, roasted sweet
Mm.
potato.
Mm. Just things, they're like things from the earth. They're like in the,
Mm.
Yes, like
wordy.
deeply
Yeah,
nourishing.
yeah, yeah. Rudy. I love that.
And
Grounding.
I do love a pumpkin. I don't need this. I don't need the coffee and like I just want coffee as coffee. But if I could have a pumpkin spice latte but no coffee, I just want the flavor, like a pumpkin spice chai, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could, or yeah, no, you could do that. What about, it doesn't you've got that great, wonderful tea person down by you, Tea Huntress. Isn't Tea Huntress
Yes.
in, I
Yeah.
bet there's something there you could get,
Yeah.
and you just put a little something in it.
It's just really the spice, but like, you know what I mean? I feel like that's not a pumpkin spice latte does not satisfy my coffee craving because I like just the bitter taste of coffee. I don't need to cover it up.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm the same.
Straight up.
I
I'm
also
a
have
purist.
I have a recipe that I could also send you. You
Yeah.
could make it doesn't have to have liquor in it, but you could make like a pumpkin spice liqueur based
Oh,
with like cashew milk, which
can
I
I
do
just
one of
come
those
over
as
because
well.
your house
Yeah.
sounds amazing.
Girl, I would love to just cook for you. I
For
swear to
real.
God, like my heart would overflow if you were here and I could just cook you all the things. It
I
would
mean,
be
Oh,
so
that
lovely.
sounds amazing.
So lovely. I'll
next
pick you
time
up
you're in
from
the
Logan Airport,
Northeast, Danny, like, did you know
fly
that
into
Danny
Boston.
lived in Connecticut too?
Yes. So growing up, we had this is going to sound, I grew up in New York City, but we had a country house in Connecticut that we went to every weekend and all summer.
Right?
That sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
Where?
Weston.
Weston, yeah.
Weston.
Fairfield County.
Nice.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
actually, part of what I love about where we are in Tennessee is it's a similar landscape to I remember. My parents bought that house. My mom was pregnant with me and sold it when I was 21. So that was the longest, well, actually now their place in Colorado is the longest place that's been consecutive, which they sold that for and built in Colorado. But that was my childhood, Connecticut.
Yeah.
So I feel I actually need to go up there. And you know what? I really want to spend a weekend in Washington, Connecticut. There's a beautiful new hotel that opened. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes. It's
Bethel
gorgeous.
Muse or something. Bethel something.
Yes,
Something.
my Jimmy, who you met, my
Yeah.
stepbrother, he was telling us about it at one point because I think his bank was doing
Yeah.
something with it or something. Yeah.
It looks gorgeous. But I haven't actually spent time in Litchfield County, and I would love to spend time in Litchfield County.
Let's go to Litchfield County.
Oh my God.
It's so we found another hotel that just opened right in Litchfield Center, and it looks like it's got a beautiful restaurant, farm to
Wait,
table.
maybe this is it.
It's called, I can't remember the name of it. I'll find out the name and I'll send it to you. But it's right on the green in Litchfield.
Well, and then we can reach out and find out if they'd like to sponsor a podcast episode. And then we
Oh,
could all
yes.
record there
Yeah, let's
around
do
a
it.
table.
Let's do
and we
it.
could eat some food.
Yeah.
Let's do it. I really want to get up to Litchfield County because that's just the one. And there's a lake there, right? I love lakes.
Yep. Yep. Oh, well, we got you covered, girl.
Yeah.
Dani, I feel like there's so many things that we would have loved to have also
Well, we can do
touched
part
on.
two.
There is
Yeah,
just,
we're gonna need
I
a
mean,
part two.
I think that the having had a reading with you and knowing the unique things that you bring to readings and the way that you see people and you talk about places where their souls could reside or like looking at the globe and being able to think about how to truly live your most authentic life. There are so many layers to you. Like an onion, like a potato, the skin, the flesh, the inside. There's so much.
I'm very
You're like
honored
a roasted
and very
roasted
humbled.
potato. But we're so grateful that knowing that this is going to be the first episode of 2026, such an important year for Nick, and then also in this special Chiron Returns time that you get to be the voice that helps everybody kick off their year for WTF. So we're so grateful, truly.
Thank you. I'm so grateful. And
We'd have you longer. I just know
Yeah.
it's 3:03. So, and I
Yes.
know Nick, you've got to skedaddle as well. But
We'll do a part two.
You're such a gift.
Yeah, let's
Thank
do
you.
a part two. And please give those babies, dog babies, hugs and kisses.
same
And
to you and
Danielle
Heather
the same.
and the kitties.
Yeah, we love you.
Love you too.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye, guys.
Well, that was delish. Thanks for pulling up a chair with us at Women Around a Table Eating Food. You can find us here bi-weekly, so if you loved today's conversation, hit follow wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube or Instagram at Women Around a Table, and share it with a friend, because there's always room for more at our table.